going to take a look at a lock flow, all right? And where this came from for me, like I said, I probably stole it from somebody, so whoever it is, I apologize if I'm not giving you credit, is Janet at one point said, an outside wrist lock and an S lock are the extreme ranges of motion of your wrist. And if you think about it, it's really true. If I turn my wrist all the way this way, I can't go anymore, it's an outside wrist lock. If I turn my wrist all the way, I can't go anymore, it's an S lock. And so everything that we do wrist-wise kind of falls in between that continuum of one end to the other. Okay, does that make sense? Now, so we're going to take a look at the wrist locks first. We're going to do an outside wrist lock, to a center lock, to an S lock, to kind of a reverse wedding lock. Okay? And there's a lot of stuff we can obsess on about this, and there's a lot of stuff you should obsess on about this, but you don't have to necessarily do it right now. I'm going to point out some of the highlights and some of the benefits and some of the pitfalls as we go through this, and you guys can kind of cherry pick what you want in terms of your own development, and then when you're showing this in class to somebody, say, oh, you know what, this person's doing this thing less efficiently. I can help them with this, or you notice what you're doing on yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. So let me borrow Dan, just because you were looking at me, you fool. Now, when we do this, we're going to start off from a wrist grab, okay? And this is not combat, all right? So I don't have to do distractions yet. You can get your hand up because that's important, but that's all we have to do. We're just looking at the concept of locks, okay? Are you with me so far? All right. And in real class, you're not ever really going to, in real life, you won't ever go through all of these. But we're going to start here. My hand's up, and I'm going to start from a contrived position with my feet together because stepping is important on this. And we're going to try and make our footsteps efficient in terms of making our body do what we want and making him do what we want. Let's go to this side over here if we could, so that way everybody can see when you fall down. So my hands are up. I'm just going to keep my elbow in, my hand goes live, all that other stuff, right? I bring this up, I grab underneath, and I'm going to peel this orange to get a grab. Here's the first thing that's important. If I grab really hard like this, just pull your hand back down really fast. I won't be able to stop because there's a hole and there's tension. That's not good. And I don't want that. So what I want to do is, I call it peeling an orange. You know when you peel an orange, you kind of do this motion? That's what I'm going to do on his hand. Now, we all don't have the same size hand. I got pretty big hands. Some other people have big hands, some people have small hands. It doesn't matter. The physics are the same. And what I'm doing, the reason he can pull his hand out is because there's slack in his hand. So he compresses his hand just a little bit more, and it gives him space, and he can yank his hand out through the hole. Right? Make sense so far? So what I'm doing is, I'm going to hook with this, and it opens his hand up. So now there's no slack. But also what it does is it pushes his wrist forward. So now before, when his hand was here, he could pull his hand straight back, which is an easy and explosive motion for him. Now when I do that, in order for him to, see that? In order for him to do that, he's got to first get his hand to where he can retract it this way. That's what this does. That takes it away. Okay? And that's all I need to do. My upper body is now done with this lock. Okay? I got this canted forward, the next joint is affected, life is good. So what we do now is we're going to take this, I'm going to step back on a triangle, which is roughly 60 degrees. I'm not going to step back and leave him there. My elbows are locked in like we preach all the time. I'm going to step back, he goes with me. Just like that. From there, do the same motion I was doing with the hook. You can stand up. When I do the hook, and I'm in this position, jab, cross, hook, my weight shifts to this foot. Just like that. Notice I didn't kick my heel out. My weight shifted to this foot like that. I kept that forward lean. Does that make sense? Because, and so I'm going to take you down, but I'll go easy. Go ahead. What's nice about this, when I shift back and he's off balance, nothing else happens with my hand. Just watch my hands for a sec. And when I shove with this foot and go here, he falls down. Nothing else, I don't do anything else because it's my body and that lean that affects the wrist. So my legs are shoving through his wrist, not my hands. That's really important. Okay? That being said, every position we do has a wedge. I call this a wedge. Whether or not that's accurate, I don't know. But that's the way I think of it, is I got his hand wedged in my hand, as opposed to grabbed. Okay? So we're going to find that wedge through all the stuff that we do. And don't worry about the stepping, but all of this stepping comes into play. So the first thing we do is, I'm here, I step back, I'm going for my outside wrist lock. Now he doesn't like the outside wrist lock. Also, these are based on people's natural reactions on ways to get out of it. He's going to pull his hand back, like that. I'm trying to pull him this way, he doesn't like it, he pulls back. Okay? If I don't have a lock, I don't fight for it. So when I do this and he starts to go, he pulls back, I go into a center lock. There's always a hand switch involved. So this is good, but I can't rotate anymore. I'll bring this hand up, and I'll turn towards him. There's my center lock. Okay? Does that make sense? And I'll go through the whole thing once, and then we're going to break it down into 2 lock portions. Okay? So from there, if he starts to pull back, he's going to lock himself more, because as he retracts his arm, it naturally rotates those bones, and he can't rotate anymore. What instead he's going to do, he's going to push down. So as he pushes down, my hand is ready and it feeds in. I've got this compression. This hand comes up. There's my S-lock. Okay? Now, if he pushes this way, he compresses himself. He makes that face. It doesn't work. So what he can do is go that way. I'm just going to let him go. I hook his thumb. This hand comes over the top, and I'm going to rotate this in to a reverse wedding lock. Now, the crucial thing here is I keep my wrist straight. If you do this, you won't get all the way through because things will break. I'm going to take and turn his fingers towards his ribs, like that. And then I'm going to rotate, and we'll rotate both of us to here. And now I would pull really painfully down on his elbow. That's a bigger lever, right? For the sake of this, I'm going to bring this up like that and keep his, I'm going to bend my wrist, which is not what we want to do because that's a weak structure. The last one is I go from here, I roll in to a straight arm bar. Does that make sense? Okay, so what I'd like us to work on is a grab, I bring my hand up, get a wedge, lock that in, and help each other not to move our hands. Okay? Step back, shift. Okay. And then go from there into the, oh, sorry. From here, he starts to pull his hand back. Once I feel this isn't going to work, I don't fight for it. This hand isn't doing anything right now anyway. I turn my hand, thumb down, I grab his finger so he pulls his hand back, and I go with it. That's all I'm doing is just redirecting his motion. This comes up, and you're into your center line. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, sir. Let's give that a shot.